Gaming has given us so many things over the years. The industry as a whole has made a massive splash, especially over the past 20 years, where the world has witnessed gaming's massive rise to the largest industry in entertainment.
It's a lot better than we usually do.
Alright, thumbs up.
Ready, guys?
Let's do this. Leroy Jenkins!
Oh my god, he just ran in.
Save him! Oh jeez, stick it clean!
Oh Jesus, let's go.
Yeah? No! Dude, we have so much shit to do! Holy fucking shit! Was ist das denn? Oder Gott, was ist geschehen? Ich habe es verspielen!
Oh my god! Are they not recording? Are you recording, Crickshaw?
This didn't all happen overnight, as you would assume, and as time went on, various ways of interacting with the medium would be created and would continue to shape the industry. At first, games were pretty small and exclusive experiences. From Pong to the Atari, most games were designed to be played single player, or with one or two other friends. But as gaming would become more and more innovative, this multiplayer aspect of gaming would come to the forefront. Developers would go on to create games that were designed for a larger audience to play at a single time, on a single console or machine. Eventually, the concept of the arcade would come along and change everything. This led to a huge shift in gaming to adopt a more multiplayer-friendly focus to their creations. In 1993, upon the release of id Software's Doom, an entirely new social gathering would reach popularity and become one of the de facto methods by which to experience gaming. This was the LAN Party. The LAN Party was so impactful and has played an enormous role in shaping the gaming industry into what it is today. The LAN part stands for Local Area Network, and the party part, well, I think we all know what that means. Basically, the attendees of a LAN party would bring their PCs to a central location, usually some homeboy's basement, and connect their PCs via a router or switch to the local area network. This would enable players to play together and share their experiences, competing to be the best, all while having a blast participating in the social things that made parties so great, namely alcohol, lots of alcohol, and pizza. This kind of party was incredibly nerdy and at first not entirely approachable. First of all, you'd have to find friends to game with, when at the time gaming was not nearly as popular as where it is today. Secondly, they'd all have to agree to lug their bulky PCs with rear projection monitors to their buddy's house, even if they had a PC, which again was a lot less common than we understand it to be today. The LAN Party quickly became a quintessential way to game, and many of my most cherished memories of gaming came from the times when I went to or hosted a LAN party. There are countless memes also created in the name of LAN parties, and we've all witnessed the absolute classic of the dude duct taped to the ceiling playing Counter-Strike. All of this points us to the fact that there is a rich history behind LAN parties and that they've brought us to where we are in gaming today. At first, it was the arcade. The arcade was created by the gaming industry for their consumers to gather and share these new, grand, and virtual experiences, all in a social setting. It also popularized and centralized the scoreboard system, where players would compete to earn high scores that could be posted and shared with friends. While it is another topic for another video, the arcade is crucial to mention, for it laid the groundwork and established a demand for the kinds of experiences that would come thereafter. The arcade was entirely unique, and it was made clear that gaming was about to explode, considering it had the capacity to basically invent entirely new social gatherings. After the popularity of the arcade, gaming kept chugging along as it always did, but now it was different. The landscape had shifted from mainly single-player experiences to become more and more focused on this force of social interaction that was capable of bringing people together in ways never before seen. However, the internet was still in its infancy and lacked the strength and infrastructure to allow for online gaming. Keep in mind, the World Wide Web was only launched in '93 and was capable of speeds like 56 kilobytes per second. Yeah, we have come a long way. It was under these circumstances that the famous Doom was released by id Software in '93. The game was so groundbreaking for so many reasons, but specifically, it was its multiplayer system that would go on to pretty much create the LAN Party. The game allowed for local area network play, enabling players to go through the campaign cooperatively or compete in deathmatches. The gaming world has Doom to thank for a lot. While I've never experienced a Doom party, they clearly were all the rage as the game would go on to inspire many other titles and the LAN Party would continue to develop and evolve more and more games. In the wake of Doom, so many games would follow. At first, in '96, there was Quake, also developed by id Software. This was a game so addictive, it had the likes of people like Joe Rogan under its clutches.
Shooter games.
Dude, that game is a real problem. Jamie and I have been going to war for the last, 2 months? When did this start? Like 2 months ago?
Yeah, maybe like that. Sounds
I'm
right.
in full-blown addiction mode now.
But what is the...
Quake was a huge hitter right out of the gate that Doom opened up. The game offered real-time 3D rendering and had support for 3D acceleration through OpenGL, so the game was graphically leagues above its predecessor. Also, after Doom's multiplayer successes, Quake would double down on these features and added various multiplayer options, among which the most popular ones were forms of deathmatch, like one-on-one and clan battles. Countless LAN parties would be had in the name of Quake. It was around this time too that the internet became more robust and capable of handling online gaming. While this was great, the early days of online gaming were rough, and many can remember trying to game on either dial-up connections or under extremely high latency conditions. It could be infuriating at times for sure. The nice part about the LAN Party was that at least while playing just under the local area network, latency was never an issue as the computers were all directly connected. Following in the footsteps of Doom and Quake would come two other amazing games that would become LAN Party staples. They both came out in '99, but first it was Unreal Tournament. This title would capitalize on everything Quake had done 3 years prior. Being an arena first-person shooter, it revolved around multiplayer deathmatches, which were the primary focus of the game. It even brought with it a slew of other game types that proved to be wildly popular in the multiplayer scene, like Assault and Capture the Flag. The game also featured bots available in both practice mode and multiplayer mode to fill in the empty spaces on the server. Unreal Tournament would go on to spawn an entire series in its name that would continue to innovate itself with a focus on the multiplayer experience. It would also prove to be an absolute classic and a top-played game at LAN parties. The next game to really shake up the LAN party scene and become another contender for top-played game at LAN parties was Counter-Strike. Originally a mod for the first Half-Life, it was soon scooped up by Half-Life's creators, Valve, and became a game or series of its own. It was even this game we have to thank for the hilarious photo of that kid suspended from the ceiling held there with duct tape. Like Unreal Tournament, Counter-Strike would spawn a series that would continue to grow in popularity to this day, where Counter-Strike Global Operations remains one of the most popular games being played, and surely still played at LAN parties across the world. During this period, most of these games were shooters, at least the most popular and talked about titles. However, there was also another genre that was widely popular in the LAN space, and that was real-time strategy games, or RTSs. Games like 1997 Age of Empires really established themselves as LAN powerhouses. Especially in the case of Age of Empires, there were so many possibilities, and the competitive nature of games like Doom and Quake was still deeply embedded in these experiences. As such, gamers flocked and still enjoy playing these games at LAN parties to this day. Arguably, one of the first popular RTS experience at LAN parties was StarCraft. This game would even go on to spawn countless tournaments in LAN party fashion. It could be argued that StarCraft, along with Quake and Unreal Tournament, were the foundations of esports, which we'll get into later. One of my greatest gaming memories was when playing Age of Empires when I was young. My brother and cousin were all at my house playing a free-for-all match. I can't remember which civilizations we were all playing, but I know I was the Egyptians because we quickly realized that we forgot to turn off the Construct the Wonder victory condition. Since I knew I stood no chance of winning any other way, and me, being the sneaky bastard I am, started constructing multiple pyramids across various pockets I controlled on the map. Now, the way our LAN was set up, our stations were scattered all across the house, in the office, in a bedroom, and even on a laptop in the dining room. Laughter and screaming would echo through the house while we all scrambled toward victory in Age of Empires. All-out chaos ensued as my brother and cousin would form an alliance with the prime objective of destroying my ticket to victory. At first, they thought it was only one wonder, and that they were going to win easy. To their dismay, after the destruction of my first project, the countdown timer remained, and I was uncontrollably laughing from my computer desk. I would go on to win the match, one of few I ever would, especially against my cousin, laughing the whole time as I watched the two of them scramble their forces in pursuit of my multiple pyramids. It was one of the best times I've ever had gaming, and I'll never forget it. I only have the LAN Party and Age of Empires to thank for these amazing experiences. Another cornerstone of LAN parties was your machine, or PC. Gamers would compete with one another to see who has the most powerful, cool-looking, and cutting-edge rig or setup. This was long before the days of rainbow RGBs that we expect today. Also, this was during the days of Voodoos and the early years of GeForce and Radeon lines we know and love now. The rigs seen at LAN parties were usually nothing to scoff at, but for the time, it was to establish what would become a common gamer practice in the modern era. Nowadays, people use the internet to share their setups and have competitions for various kinds of setups. Hell, even YouTubers have made a killing reviewing and comparing gamers' setups over the years. Also, during the tail end of the Golden Age of LAN parties, the world would get their hands on the PlayStation 2s and original Xboxes. Both of these consoles were capable of local area network play, and gamers would simply pair two consoles together with an Ethernet cable and they were in business. In the Xbox's case, there were so many great titles to play over LAN like Halo or Conquer Live and Reloaded. Halo brought with it all the classic game types that its LAN predecessors popularized and upped the ante by allowing players to play from their TVs and controllers, which, believe it or not, is a wildly different kind of experience than sitting at a desk with a PC using a mouse and keyboard. Finally, LANning was more accessible than it ever was, and more people were taking advantage of and having and sharing these amazing experiences. As the early 2000s rolled on, specifically after 2005, LANning would continue to be on the decline. It became less and less popular over the years, but it still had a core percentage of gamers that live for these kinds of experiences and still maintains its subculture status, albeit with a great difference from where it was before. For LAN parties, the internet became the final nail in the coffin, so to speak. With the rise of higher and higher internet speed, the move on from dial-up connections and capacity for more and more bandwidth, the gaming world would shift their focus and interactions to the internet. It basically rendered the LAN party useless. No longer did players have to disconnect, disassemble, transport, reconnect, reassemble. They could just fork over some money to the internet service provider and be done with it, ready to connect and play on a whim. Game developers and publishers accommodating their releases with dedicated online servers would also become a regular feature that really set the stage for the end of LANning. But LAN parties set the blueprint for social gaming gatherings, and the internet had to replicate this in its own way. Thankfully, the games were always there, and they maintained a deep focus on creating social experiences, especially with the rise of the MMO, a la World of Warcraft and EverQuest. Also, basically every shooter and strategy game would target the capabilities of the internet to provide matchmaking and servers for players to use, and for the most part, they were a huge success. Even on the console side of things, everything was looking up. Call of Duty 4 was released in 2007, and the game became the gaming meme of the time, using the internet. Games themselves would also be developed with specific mechanics in mind to help encourage more social interaction. For example, raids in MMOs, which can take numerous amounts of players working together to complete. Many games, including Call of Duty 4, would also allow for the creation of clans or guilds, which would further push the social interactions in games. Once again, through the power of the internet, everything in the gaming industry was shifting. For good reasons, however, in this great shift, LANning would be left in the dust. With the games covered, next the social experience of a LAN party needed to be recreated. For consoles, many after the 7th generation of consoles came with microphones upon purchase for use in online play. Players would be able to communicate via voice chat in-game, and eventually in parties of their own within the Xbox or PlayStation's ecosystem. On the PC front, there was, like the consoles, in-game voice chat. But there was also a lot of software over the years that used VoIP, or Voice over Internet Protocol, to connect players and allow them to use voice chat to socialize. To anyone who played early MMOs like Guild Wars, EverQuest, or Vanilla WoW is very familiar with services like Ventrilo or TeamSpeak. These programs helped establish the social interactions between gamers over the internet, and the experience as a whole would require software like this to be complete. They would also go on to influence the direction of the industry in regards to VoIP by creating demand for services like Discord to come in and completely change the VoIP game. As we know, Discord is the top dog in the VoIP side of things, and while now it is trying to branch its image away from gaming, it was gaming that really nurtured the program to where it is today. With every aspect of the LAN party replicated and adapted to a virtual, online experience, the internet had fully replaced it. The games were bringing people together, and services like Discord, TeamSpeak, and Vent were allowing people to communicate. Players could also share their setups and compete with one another in that regard on various community forums spread throughout the internet. It really became quite the seamless experience, where now we don't have to move a muscle besides those to interact with the mouse and keyboard or controller. We can just sit on our asses and play games with our friends. In many ways, it is superior to the now dated alternative of LANning, but there was always something missing. There also was the whole esports thing to talk about. While it definitely represents its own distinct subculture, there is totally some overlap between esports and LAN subculture. The socially competitive experience of LAN parties would evolve into the socially competitive nature of esports. Players at LAN parties would often host tournaments in their favorite games, and when clans and gaming groups came around, the competitive experience would kick into high gear. This would eventually transfer naturally to esports culture and in fact revolve around this part of the experience. The social experience was a critical point for both LAN parties and esports too. Just like you would attend a basketball game for a different social experience, the same would go for esports, and at least within gaming, this was all started by the LAN party. Esports have definitely caught the wave of gaming's popularity a lot better than LANning did back in the day, but there's a lot about its core experience it has LAN parties directly to thank for paving the way. There were so many breadcrumbs of influence left behind by the subculture of LAN parties. Even though the experience was all online now, it was clear to see, especially if you actually attended these gatherings, that all of what gaming became, at least insofar as the social side of gaming was concerned, was all made possible by LANning. LAN parties also wouldn't completely disappear, they really just shifted venues and scope. Instead of being commonly held at a friend's house among common groups of friends, the modern era would see LAN parties become LAN conventions. Gatherings like DreamHack and QuakeCon, which continue to this day, would boast about being the largest LAN parties in the world, hosting many thousands of players. They're truly a surreal sight to behold, and they're old conventions too, with DreamHack beginning in 1994 and QuakeCon beginning in 96. They've been with gaming all through the rise and fall of the LAN party and have continued to grow ever larger, especially DreamHack and The Gathering.
Few things make me as excited as seeing people from all walks of life chilling, playing games. People so happy to be here.
With its powerful burst onto the scene of gaming culture in the late 80s, early 90s, LAN parties quickly established themselves as a core and robust gaming subculture. These experiences were absolutely incomparable to anything else in gaming, and especially in the infancy of the internet, was the only real way to have these multiplayer social experiences. Industry-shaking titles like Doom, Quake, Counter-Strike, and StarCraft would lend themselves to highly engaging LAN gameplay that would establish LAN parties as an intrinsic gaming experience. These great times would only last so long, however. After 2005, with the rise of the internet, the LAN experience became more and more virtualized and brought to the online sphere. Games started coming equipped with their own online servers and matchmaking that players could utilize to play matches among themselves. This also enabled players to play together across vast distances and basically stopped the LAN party dead in its tracks. It's not all bad though. LANning would move on to bigger and better venues while dying down in popularity. Massive conventions like DreamHack would continue to carry the torch of LAN parties into the future. The contributions to gaming that this vast subculture is responsible for cannot be understated. It helped forge the internet into what it is today, ripe with forums, VoIP services, and multiplayer games. It began the whole rig war competitions and developed the leaderboard into what it became, head-to-head multiplayer matches. The industry has LANning to thank for so much, and it's clear that without it, gaming wouldn't be half the force that it is today. All of these aspects of gaming culture came about organically through the power of social interaction amongst nerds and geeks. In a way, LAN parties would walk so that Discord and esports could run. For many reasons, it's sad to see this amazing subculture dwindle into obscurity, but I certainly don't miss lugging my rig around to people's houses. I believe that the LAN party has found its niche and can happily be carried forward by these massive conventions and cult followers alike. The time of LANning has seen its heyday and it's come and gone. However, the contributions of LANning's evolution are vast, and gaming definitely wouldn't be what it is today without the great LAN party. As always, thank you so much for watching. Share your LAN party experience in the comments below. Leave a like if you enjoyed the video, a dislike if you didn't, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.